Guys, it is spooky season and I am just so excited. So, in the spirit of Halloween, I thought it would be blasphemous to not do any kind of spooky builds. So, with that in mind, I thought this mill from Over the Garden Wall would be a great place to start. And so, with that, let's just get into it because I'm so excited. So if you've seen Over the Garden Wall, the colors are really muted. So I decided to put it in the desert to kind of keep as much of the grass and leaves from the trees and stuff as kind of dead looking and muted as possible. And that was the most challenging thing about this build, was keeping the color palette as dimly monotoned look as possible while still having those little bitty pops of color. Keeping that color palette in mind, I did use a ton of grayscale blocks. That made the basalt blocks very helpful for this, and I didn't necessarily use the blocks as they were intended, so I used stone for the water wheel and the basalt for the actual mill part there that you're seeing, and I think that really helped sell this as the mill because it kept it within the original art's kind of color palette there. I did struggle with these two windows here on the top to try to make them more accurate because they do have some color variation and slope up towards the roof, but because of the small scale that really wasn't working, so I kept it along the same block palette and just went with what looked better for this rather than accuracy in this instance. For the river here, I wasn't too finicky about the shape. I just tried to keep it generally along with what looked the right flow for the cartoon, and I also didn't stress too much about depth. I just kind of made sure here that the water wheel would fit down into it because I had a plan to kind of fake the depth later on that you'll see. For me, the water wheel seemed to be the big feature of this area, and so I did spend a lot of time trying to get it right, scaled along for where it should be in relation to the mill there, and trying to get it the right width, and trying to just get it to look right. The actual cartoon has more spokes along the edge of it in the center here, but it wouldn't look right trying to fit more, so I didn't stress too much about it. Moving on to the riverbed. In the cartoon, it's actually impossible to tell the depth of the river because the water actually looks just about jet black. So I wanted to kind of get that effect, which is pretty difficult in Minecraft because the water is either blue if you have vanilla, or if you've got the shaders on, it's clear. So I wanted to go and try to cover the bottom in the new blackstone, which is one of my favorite blocks. And I did end up speckling through some coal to kind of give it some variation and texture to kind of show that difference in depth. And it ended up looking really nice once I got it done. It just took an obscene amount of time to try to get all of the water in and the blackstone and the variation and make sure everything was flat and covered. So it was definitely worth the effort, but it was a chore, to say the least. The next big challenge for this build was definitely some lighting issues. So in the cartoon, it kind of seems like there's lighting coming from nowhere. It kind of gives it a fantastical feel, and I wanted to kind of bring that in. I didn't want to have to torch spam, that way you guys could see it in the dark. But I also kind of struggled because the standard lighting's really warm and this one's kind of cool, and so I did end up messing with the shader settings for the light just to kind of tone down that warmth some, but hiding the lights under the leaves was the best way to go. Another theme that is in Over the Garden Wall is this kind of imposing darkness that kind of surrounds them the entire time, so I didn't want you to be able to like see too far beyond where you're at the moment. So I made this black wall that's kind of end up going all the way around the build, just so you kind of get that feeling in this as well. Moving on to the waterfall, the biggest thing with this is I just wanted it to stick out in the background. Since the water is clear on this, I did just put some white behind it just so you'd be able to see it. Above the waterfall, there are these kind of black spindly trees you can see in the background, so I didn't spend a whole lot of time making like full trees. I just made kind of these black trunk looking structures that it would kind of create a similar effect if you're looking back towards the waterfall. For the trees on this, I debated for a long time whether or not to do some custom trees, but I figured since the main feature really isn't the forest and the trees, they're kind of in the background, I thought I'd save myself the headache and just do some of the custom trees, because these large oak trees do really look pretty good in my opinion. And for the forest, I really took the lazy way out and just spammed a bunch of different trees all over each other. And it's gonna look a little funky here in the beginning, but it really does turn out all right. So while I do my tree spam here and finish up the wall surrounding the rest of this, I'll just let you guys sit back and enjoy it. Alright everybody, and that is the mill finished. I'll just show you really quickly. So the forest ended up not looking too funky, and I think the biggest thing with that is because I replaced all of the logs with the same gray acacia logs with World Edit, and I think that really helped. But it's really just background. But anyway, so we are all done. We're about to get into some cinematic shots, but thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And if you want to see what we got coming up next, there's another Halloween build, so turn on those notifications. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.